We unmuted? Okay, thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. Today is Thursday, September 18th, and it's 1:30, and it's time for our finance meeting. If we could have a call to order, please, Lauren.
All right, and can I ask for Commissioner Nieder? Commissioner Fashi?
I'm here.
Commissioner Eichelberger?
Present.
Okay, do we have any public comments? Okay, so none in the room. So we are looking for action on the minutes of September 11th, 2024.
I'll move for approval of those minutes.
I will second that motion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And Rich Farr, we're so glad you're here in person from the Susquehanna Regional Transportation Authority, and we are ready for your update.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for having us. It's been a little bit. I think it's probably been almost a year since I've been here. So, you know, a little bit of history, which so we have been involved since 2018 in CAP, which doesn't seem like it could be possible that long, right? What's that say, right? And I think really for me as the director, it's probably been the last 6 months, maybe not much more than that, where I feel like now I can finally lift my head up, start looking around to figure out what's next, because I feel like we've turned the page financially. With the contract negotiations are in good, the contract's solid, the practices are in place. We're running a sound transit system for Cumberland County. So I think that's the best news probably out of all of it, because if you recall, when we came in the door, we're looking at a $2 million unfunded deficit with no way out. Service levels were horrific, cancellations by hundreds a month, and that's all behind us. Now we're still having some cancellations because we're still having some staffing issues, but it's becoming more manageable.
You're talking shared ride.
That is fixed route.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the fixed route program. The shared ride, we're doing good. We're short on some employees, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But yeah, I really feel, and I think the presentation today, a lot of this stuff is really stuff that's developed in the short term that like we've been starting, because again, I feel like we could start doing the work of tomorrow, and we just haven't been able to be in that position.
When you say that cancellations, you mean like on any day, a shift?
Yeah, so like if a driver calls off, there might be 2 lengths of a trip that's canceled because we don't have the driver to fill that. And when I started, before I started, because I started February 1st, I actually arrived on January 2nd, we were canceling like 18 to 25 a day. We're down to maybe 1, 2 a week. It's getting better.
Yeah.
But zero is the number, right? Because if you're the person standing on the corner and you're needing to go to work and that's your bus route that's canceled, that's a problem. That can never be acceptable ever. Right. So we're working on that, getting there. So today what I have for you is a sort of a potpourri of different topics, right? So I'm just going to start flipping through it. The largest project that we're working on is the new facility on Cameron Street. We did receive a $25,000 raise grant. We have $13 million of formula funds, federal funds that we've been saving to apply to this. It's a $150 million project, so we're not quite there yet. We have another grant we're going to apply for next year. It's the bus facility grant. We're going to ask for 60, but my budget for that is 50 million. So just a little conservative. If we get the 60, great. We may not, so we'll have to see what that looks like. But we're working through that. Remember, one of the things that I'm going to need from you at some point is the local match. So about 2 years ago, we talked about $300,000 from each funding partner. So it's a big number, but it is a one-time facility request, right? So if we think we're going to put out the bids to begin demolition of the Goodwill property here next month. So we could see demolition begin this calendar year on that. And once that starts coming in, I'll start invoicing you for the local match contributions based on the percentages. So that's forthcoming. What I really want to talk about though, while that building will be lovely and we need one because the 120-year-old building every day, this electric panel is going, this AC unit went, this roof is leaking, this floor is collapsing. We're being nickel and dime. Well, nickel and dimes would be good. You could have lots of zeros behind that. We have to move this forward. So anything that we can put off, we are putting off. I would not call that we're doing good state of good repair for this building because it's going away. So I'm trying to only what's going to burn into the ground, fix that. Anything else we'll live with. So we're kind of working through that. But probably most importantly is the new transit center that we're building, and that's the second page. Currently, the transfer center is on Market Square. It is not a transfer center by any stretch of the imagination. It functions incredibly poor. Oftentimes the drivers have to drive around the block waiting for a slot because it's full and you can't get in, so you keep driving around till it's your turn to come in. If I'm on that bus driving around, but I want that bus that's first in line, I'm not getting that bus. So I get to wait a half hour, an hour. That's not, there's nothing about that that makes sense. And so this transfer center will allow us to have up to 16 buses at one time. And so that is what I'm most excited about. When that starts to come online, and we've already done some preliminary plans, we're going to redesign transit lines for Cumberland and Dauphin County. They're going to be completely redone. That's very exciting, but there will be some angry people because you're changing time schedules, right? But we're still going to serve the same areas. It could be off by 15 minutes because we want a pulse system where the buses come together and then leave. So when you don't have to wait that half hour, you can literally get off to your next bus and get on the right bus. And there's more to come on that on a later slide.
Since you're on the transfer center, I'm going to jump into a question now.
Yeah.
So Market Square is going away.
We'll have a bus stop there. It'll still be an important bus stop,
Okay.
right? Because we get a lot of people
Well, a lot
working
of
that
Commonwealth
square.
Commonwealth employees, I think, relied on that more than probably anybody. But
What's interesting is we don't know why. There are 3 times more boardings than there are lightings, meaning people getting off. That's typically it's almost 1 for 1 at a transfer center, right? I think people walk to the transfer center because we've been so unreliable at the bus stops. They would rather walk 3 or 4 or 5 blocks to wait for the bus at the beginning of the line so they don't miss it. That's my only educated guess. I can't figure out, like we've looked at it, we've surveyed people. It doesn't make sense that you would have that different of a number. So it's really still a big stop. What we're probably going to ask for is from the city is that if you turn off of 2nd Street onto Market Street heading towards Cameron, there's a pull off, like a 4 spots right in front of the bank. We'll probably ask for that pull off to be given to us. So we have a dedicated pull off spot. Because I see a bus hitting that spot probably every 15 to 30 minutes. Because it's going to still be a big.
is that going to be reconfigured then? I mean, the city put in that S curve to make room for that.
I don't know what they're going to do with it. When we're done with it, I'm going to sign the lease back to them and say, good luck, city.
Yeah.
Because we'll have nothing to do with it. And I won't have to support it. and that clock won't be mine anymore. Because that's a fun thing to maintain is that old clock. So we're really looking at that. And I want to talk about the Lemoyne Transfer Center here in a minute. Well, I guess it's the next slide. Let's talk about that. So I'm going to have you flip one more page, and then we'll come back to the other one. So there's a table here that shows that 165 buses a day cross the river. I can't help to think that's inefficient. So our vision is, and there's a vision at this point, right? So we're planning towards this, but I'm going to flip back to the transfer center. The Lemoyne Transfer Center is sad. It needs some help. So this is the concept of what we want to do with the Lemoyne Transfer Center. And the concept is that we'll have a bus that connects Lemoyne to Cameron Street transfer centers. So there'll be regular service, but it'll be one line that goes across. Now, I say that, we may end up doing more than that, but this is the sort of the direction that I've given to the planning team. I want one connection, and then instead of all these buses in Cumberland County driving to downtown Harrisburg, they stay here and we get more service here, right? So we'll have local lines that never leave here, which we don't have now. We can have circulators and connect people to more places, I hope, for the same dollars. So that's our hope. Now, hope and reality are often not the same thing, but that's the direction that we're going. So I'm pretty excited about that. We are the work order, PennDOT's doing it all at their cost, 100%, all the evaluation, the design of service. I don't think I'm going to need local match, but I don't think anything that's out of the ordinary what I normally ask from you every year. So I wouldn't expect you coming back saying, hey, I need $100,000. I think it's going to be $5,000 or $6,000, right? To do the transfer center. It'll be part of our capital plan and you probably won't even notice it, right? It'll be similar as every other request.
Now you are talking nickels and dimes.
We are talking, right, but that little bit will get us
Yeah.
a couple $1 million. So I'm very excited about this transfer center. I think what's good about it is also that, it's on the corridor that will connect the future rail trail that they're planning. And we have this thing called the CAT Bridge. That's the only thing, by the way, we're fully Rapid Transit. CAT no longer exists. The only thing I continue to call CAT is that bridge because I don't really want to own it. So we keep blaming CAT for the bridge. But we own it. And so we're beginning to do some design work on it. What would it take to bring it up to standards? Because, the question I asked PennDOT is, when does a bridge become a dam? And what does that look like? If we don't maintain this thing, we own it. If it falls in the river, who's responsible? What does that look like? This is not an asset that we can continue to ignore. Like, we have to pay attention to this. And so we're beginning to look at what can we do with it? Can it be a pedestrian bridge? Looking at connecting First Street and Lemoyne to so we have connect the whole all the way across. If you've never been out on the bridge, I'd be glad to walk out with you someday. And not that we need to create pipe dreams and stuff, right? But when I go to New York City, I have to do the High Line every single time. It looks like the High Line. You can't, like, it could be an asset for our communities like nothing else, but we have to see what those dollars are. And they're going to be big. Like, this is not a small number.
So when you say to bring it up to standard, what standard are we talking about?
It would be a standard that, because like they have to look at the scouring at the base of it. How is it structurally sound? Is there environmental issues? It was a railroad bridge.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm getting at, which is that the standard's going to depend on what the use is, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's going to be
So,
pedestrian. We're not ever
It's
looking.
definitely good. So we're not putting any buses on it.
No. Well, we wouldn't be able to get off that, right? It's hard to get on and off. There's no way.
But obviously we-
Right. It's our bridge to nowhere. Like, you can't get vehicles on and off. It's a railroad bridge. I guess you could if you spent enough money, but I don't think we need that. I think we have enough connectivity. We don't need that.
So we need to put an extra 4 lanes on the South Bridge again.
Although we rarely use the South Bridge, we use Market Street.
I guess my point is that the volume is only going to increase.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have an existing bridge. It's
Right.
struck some of us during this debate over the last 10 years.
Right.
That what a waste of an asset potentially.
It could be. Well, it could be used for something else, but I think, we're talking tens of millions of dollars to make it a pedestrian bridge. I don't know what it would cost. You probably could put 2 more lanes on the South Bridge for what it would take to rehab that bridge. I'm not an engineer.
But clearly it would require federal involvement. So
And railroad clearance for it. Like, there's a lot going on with that. And when you get to the other end, you end up at the train station. Like, how do you get off it? So, and Amtrak does use, well, they say they don't, but I think they still do, use it for a turnaround on the one end. So,
the bridge itself.
yeah, they have a right of way.
Yeah, I mean, when the dare I say it, the Q1 initiative was there, they constantly had, like, for fireworks, they would back. I think I was on it one time. They backed us out halfway across the bridge, or not quite halfway.
Be a good place to sit fireworks.
It was, yeah.
I think it could have more use for that. It's a lovely thing. It'd be great if a lot of people could go out there for that.
Yes.
Yeah, I really do think it could be something really spectacular for the region. And it is, I am not necessarily a rail to trail person unless I can see that people can use it for daily activities. I'm not a recreation person. That's called DCNR, DCND, right? It's those folks, right? Not DCNR, that's a deaf thing, right? But it's a park recreation. That's not a public transportation issue. But if if people can use the rail to go buy groceries, to go to work, this bridge could do that.
Yes.
People who live in that community who work could ride a bicycle, walk.
The only transportation role it could serve would be someone on a, like, perhaps.
That's what I'm thinking. And if we can get it up to speed, the second thing will be is who can own it.
Right.
Because they don't want it to be rapid transit. It could be, if we bring it up to standard, we'll start looking around for that, because we do not want to own it.
Kirk owned it before.
You.
Yeah.
We got
My
Cumberland
predecessor
Valley
bought it.
It's Conrail,
It was Conrail.
Yeah.
Okay.
us at some point, and then back to, CAT.
It's located in Dauphin County, but Cumberland County.
What was that? It's a gift that keeps giving. Thank you. Right, but it is what it is, and we'll have to deal with it, right? So, I'm pretty excited about that. Talk a little bit about high intensity mobility corridors. I got ahead of myself, the bridge slide's coming up. So we kicked off an initial study to identify what I'm calling high intensity mobility corridors. And that's not every route, but there are routes in all of our communities that have the propensity to be really, really heavily used. In the capital region, Cumberland, Dauphin County, we have a couple routes that really kind of stand above the rest, but they're all kind of about the same in ridership. But I think some of them, like the Carlisle Pike, right? That bus should be packed, and it's not. Why? No sidewalks, no bus amenities. It's not user friendly, right? That could be a potential high impact route that we can begin working on with the local municipalities. What does it take to put some sidewalks in here? What does it take to put some good bus stops? How do we work with the business community to really connect their employees? I mean, seriously, all that retail, that is all prime transit riders. Like, why are we not having that? It baffles me. Well, then go ride the route. You don't want to be a pedestrian on that street. Right. Right. So that's one of the areas that we're going to look at. We're going to pick 3 or 4 corridors in each community to begin redefining and narrowing down which ones. And there'll be a winner in each county is how we see it. One York County, one here, one Dauphin County. And we'll push those out and then look to see what could be next in the future. But that's going to be one of our big initiatives moving forward. There's a big conversation about, I think there's a slide about that too. Yeah, let's look at the next one. It's frequency versus coverage. We have historically been a transit system. I say we. Historically CAT, historically even Rapid Transit, fixed route in York County has historically been a transit system about coverage. A little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. Nobody can really use it for anything meaningful, right? Because there's not enough frequency on any of it, but we have a little bit going places where you have to wait 3 hours for your next bus. So we, in York County during the pandemic, because of staffing issues, we had to do service reductions. And so we begun looking at, last October, we did our first redeployment of those resources back into service. And we added, there is clear one winner in York County on transit service. So Route 1 that goes from East York to West York carries 50% of all the riders in private transit in York County. One route. It's clear winner. Everything else like failed. And so we put 15-minute service. It was every 30 minutes. We went to every 15. In the first quarter, ridership grew 15%. When you add new transit service, it typically takes 3 years before people understand what you've done. Don't ask me why, but that's the magic number. You put something in, 3 years later, people start using it. It takes them that long to understand. In 3 months, ridership went up 15% on that route.
Is that route just downtown, like Market in Philadelphia?
Philadelphia Market Street. Yep. So it was every 30 minutes historically forever. We added during peak time. It's not all day. It's evenings and weekends. It's not needed. But during that busy time, we've added every 15 minutes. It's sort of a little test on this high intensity mobility corridors. If you give something more, what happens? And I think this is a little story of what the future could hold on certain corridors. If we service it, people will use it, right? If you're a parent that has to take your child to daycare before you go to work, historically right now, you probably have to start your day 2 hours, right? For the first hour is the trip to the daycare. The next hour is the trip to work. It shouldn't be that way, right? This allows you to ride the bus to daycare, go back out 15 minutes later, the bus comes and you finish your trip. So probably 30 minutes versus 2 hours.
So hypothetically on that, just, I don't want to beat this as a dead horse, but so that downtown route obviously presents some obstacles that are going to add time and such. Does that become a barrier to, say, taking 30 or?
Well, what we would propose along, this is all we did was add frequency. If we were, that is one of the routes we're identifying as a high intensity mobility corridor.
A lot of stops.
We would probably remove every other stop, but the stops that are left, we would make them meaningful. Like you would have a true shelter, there'd be lighting, amenities. The bigger ones may be real-time bus information, so it becomes meaningful. We would work with the municipalities to have signal prioritization, not preemption. There's a difference. You know, the ambulance comes up, it changes for them. Transit bus comes up, if it's green, oh, I see you coming. We're going to hold it for another 3 seconds so you get through the light. Or we see you arrive, we're going to shorten the cycle so you can get moving, right? That could be a game changer. If we get something like that, we could add a couple more bus loops a day. Like it could, that bit of time, we could add 2 more cycles in the whole route a day. That's really meaningful to the rider, right? So I think they're the kind of things we're going to be exploring in that high intensity mobility corridor study. So good stuff. But this is just a little kind of one element of that, and we're seeing big returns already. Talked a little bit about the Cab Bridge. I don't know if you've seen this map before, but you can see the proposed trails and how it could connect to the bridge. And I think there's some real potential with that, but we're gonna have to figure out, you know, the funding piece of it. You know, most traditional funds can't be used for this. We started working with Tri-County and looking at some grants, and the description of the grants really don't fit this project. So we're gonna have to do some work on that. So,
You know, are there, from my conversation this morning in opportunity zone, so is there opportunity zone money for this? I learned something new this morning. No.
I'm gonna ask though. We'll find out.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and all that money, I guess, that program will go away in 2027 unless, of course, it's picked up by a new administration. So time is certainly of the essence. I'm looking at.
Do you know what federal department that goes to?
I don't know, but I can find that out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
find out, let
okay.
me know. Yeah, we'll give me pointed in the right direction. We'll start digging
Okay.
to see what we can find. All right, so next subject, the Carlisle facility, the project that seems to never be. So we talked about at the Rittner Road, remember building that building. And so we got all the approvals in place. We have signed agreements between the authority and the county, and we're ready to go. And we issued procurements off of the state contract, and was going through final design and almost ready to put it out to bid when DGS says that state contract cannot be used for construction. It's only rehabilitation. So we got to the end of the line, even though I read it and our attorney reads it as we intended it to be, it can't be used for that. So we are back to square one. Well, not quite square one. We're in the beginning of design. So now we have to end on paying for us. So it's nothing on us or you. But we're back to where the building is being designed, and probably 7 months from now, we'll put it on the street. And so we really lost almost, probably by the time we're all done, 2 years by trying to use the DGS agreement. And so PennDOT, it was a pilot program. They're not going to ever try that again. That's unfortunately, we volunteered for that pilot program and got caught up in it. So we're currently in IDD's office space. So I don't know how they like it. It's working for us. It's not ideal. You know, our team's across the street from the vehicles, and
Right.
but it's working and it's functional. I'm sure that you want to out soon. We'd like to be out too. But so that it's moving forward. Once, you know, because it's being designed differently, we'll come back to you and present to you the new. This is the old concepts. We'll present to you the new concepts so you know what's being built. It should look like this, but it could be different. So we'll come back to the table so you know what's going on with that. So as soon as I have that information, that'll probably be the next time you see me. All right. Shippensburg service. We, for years and years, used Wolf Bus Lines as a subcontractor, which worked great. They no longer wanted to do it. We put it out to bid. We got no bidders. And so we ended up bringing it in-house. And, you know, the challenge for us is that it's 2 buses serving that community, and it's halfway between Chambersburg and here, right? So how do we manage that? It's kind of a nuisance to manage, to be honest. Like, it's really, for that much service, it's a lot of effort. But we were successful bringing it in-house. We have a floating supervisor who goes back and forth, which also helps us in other areas. So when Rose is on vacation, you know, they come in and help her and cover for, so that's kind of working out all right. We're really shifting. We'll flip to the next. What we've seen is when we came to that, Shippensburg was a university service. It is no longer a university service. It's actually more community than it is university. Seniors are the largest percentage of the ridership. Now you can see the numbers here. The total ridership was 18. It dipped as low as 10,000 during the pandemic. We're back to 14, growing. So like all of our other services coming back online, but seniors are making up larger percentage than the students. Students are only 41% of the ridership now, and it continues to decline, which is good, right? Because now we're seeing seniors are using it to go grocery shopping, going to the senior center. There's a couple high rises that because this is free. We put them on shared ride, they have to pay a copay, and aging has to pay for it too. So if we can move them from shared ride to fixed route, saves aging money, right. So it's a really a good thing, and we see a lot of people making that transition. And again, Rose Cook, she's great, she's fabulous. I'm doing a really good job signing seniors up and getting them converted over. So really proud of the work that she's doing in Shippensburg and managing that. So good stuff.
Their adoption of that, I imagine, comes down to reliability.
Right.
So we're confident that that's not going to prevent.
Right. It shows up. Right. Yeah.
It's drivers.
Rural service is different than fixed route. It's funny that in the rural areas, the drivers, we do what we call morning huddle every day. And so at 8 o'clock, every operations person is expected to be on the Zoom meeting. So it looks, there's 25 people from 11 counties, and they have to give updates. And part of the update is call offs. So in the urban areas, you'll hear so-and-so, 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 right? And then you get to, that's York, you get to Dauphin, Harrisburg. You get to the rural areas, I don't have anybody, nobody. It's just different. I don't know why, but so Shippensburg, the driver shows up every day, bus goes out. Yeah, it's good stuff. We're creating a van pool program using state funds. We are working with the county's re-entry coalition members.
Yes, they're very excited.
They are very excited. They're very enthusiastic folks. We appreciate their enthusiasm. They call all the time. It's great. But it is, I think it's really a good service. We're really aiming at second and third shift. Because we're a public agency, when we put service out, it's for anyone. So we really want to target reentry folks, the ALICE population, and try to figure out how can we help them get to these jobs. But if I offer a van pool program, I have to offer that to people who are making six figures. It doesn't matter because it's public. I have to do the same for everybody. So we have specifically targeted second and third shift. It doesn't mean we couldn't find people who are more affluent, but I think it probably naturally will gravitate away from that and really focus on that. So it's a pilot program where we haven't really kicked it off yet. It's going to be called Rabbit Works, and we're working with enterprise vans. And so we're working with folks like those to help us really find the people who need the trips. So we budgeted for 6 vans. So we'll see how that goes, and hopefully we get some on the street here pretty quick.
So you've not done this in any of your other markets?
This is brand new,
Yeah.
right? And so we are offering those 6 vans. There's 6 vans total for Cumberland, York, and Dauphin County. That's a pilot program. If it's really successful, we can budget for more dollars moving forward. But we're going to start small, see what is the return on the investment, how do people use it, and then potentially grow the program from there. Because I've heard for 20 years, second, third shift. I'm like, I'm done with that. Let's try to find something to address that.
Is it Cumberland, Dauphin, and York?
Because it's the urban fixed route areas. That's the formula funds I get from the state.
So the fixed route service in the city of Harrisburg, just as an aside, what time does that end?
I think it ends at like 11.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it runs pretty late. But as the day goes on, it sort of contracts to the city, and sort of York's the same way. York runs until, well, we have a couple shuttles that go out until 1, but it's very specific. But that could be something this turns into too, right? So if we look at the van pools and we see a pattern, we fill 4 vans from Cumberland County, they're all sort of leaving from the same area, going to the same area. That might be a fixed route that we need to create. Like we'll have to see what information it generates, but I think there's some opportunities there. Something kind of fun. I watched a video on board of 2 passengers practically in a knockdown, drag out fight over a stroller. And I'm looking at this video and like, why are these people doing this? And so in transit, historically, if you have a stroller, you're required to fold it and stow it and board. Anybody ever use a stroller with children and have to put it in the trunk of your car?
Yeah.
What was the effort to do that?
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
You know where it was really bad is when you go to Disney World,
Oh,
right?
right.
And you take the bus around Disney World and you have to pack up that giant stroller. Yep.
With all the stuff that first you have to unload it. And then what do you do if you're by yourself? What do you do with your child?
Right, exactly. It's
Set them on
very
the
tough.
grass next to the bus? And so I watched this unfold and I'm like, there's got to be a better way. A stroller is a mobility device. It's no different than a wheelchair or a walker. It is a device that someone uses to be successful in mobility. What can we do about it? So we picked two routes, one up, in these two counties and one in York County, and we took out a row of seats. And we designated as a stroller parking area. We even put like a play map on the wall. So when you push the stroller in, there's something for the child to look at. We designated the outside of the bus with one of these little decals and it's working, right? So the second stroller, sorry for your luck, you're gonna have to fold it up. If you're the first stroller on, and not all the times we have more than one.
Right.
So at least it's moving the needle in the right direction to assist, single parents, so at least maybe not a single, but they're by themselves, a caregiver with a child. It's like, we don't need to knock down, drag out, fight between passengers over this. And so I'm pretty excited about it. We're the first in the state to do anything like this, and I think it's kind of innovative. So we're pretty excited. So we'll go from excitement to less excitement. October 1st is our shared ride fare increase. We haven't had a shared ride fare increase. I was talking to Kurt when we came back. I think we partnered, it's been 11 years, 12 years since we partnered with shared ride. It's been a while. And this is the first fare increase in all that time. So the regionalization has paid off, right? We had savings, but at some point you can only squeeze that much juice out of it, right? We've reached that point. For me, the sad part for this fare increase is $4. And the fare increase, all that fare increase is going to do is cover last year's wage increases. That's it. It's not covering tomorrow's wage increases, tomorrow's fuel. We planned the whole thing only to cover the wage increase that we gave to the drivers to bring them up to a somewhat market rate. Still low, but better, because we couldn't hire anybody. And so that has helped. It stopped the bleeding. The turnover rate was at 70%. We're down to 30% turnover. So that's helped. But it's unfortunate. Now, if the governor's proposal for transit funding comes through, we'll be able to support the shared ride program differently and it will carry us for a couple more years. So fingers crossed on that, but that does go into effect on October 1st. Aging here is good. We have a contract signed with them. Worked with Annie. I think her straight lift was probably a little bigger. Aging has to pay 15% of the cost because lottery pays 85% of the increase. Her programs have to absorb 100% of the cost. So I think she had a bit more difficulty, but we're over that hurdle and hopefully it's the last one for a little while. Something else we do, I don't know if you recall, we created our own nonprofit organization, Rabbit Cares. And so one of the things that we do is solicit donations we do veterans programs. So, we offer rides to, but one of the kind of fun programs we do is the grocery cart program. And sort of that too sort of stemmed out of an issue where we kept hearing drivers talk about excessive groceries. They pull up to the food store and the senior comes out with the grocery cart heaped and look at the driver like, come help me. And the driver's like, that's not my job. Like, I'll help you this time, but we're not going to continue to carry your groceries to the bus when we bus to the house because it slows us down and then we're late for other people. So we give them a grocery cart. We tell them you can fill this. And so then they wheel it out. The driver can wheel it on. So for $50, we drop ship right from Amazon to their home, the grocery cart. And so we've had credit unions donate money. We've had employers who had dress down day and the money came to us. And so we're turning over all kinds of rocks. It's not a very expensive program, right, for us. It's all donations, but it's another mobility device that helps people live.
Yep.
Right. So it's a good thing. Staffing, we're doing two innovative things with staffing. We've created an internal mentor training program. What we're finding is the employees who are coming to us are probably less prepared than they used to be a bus driver. And so they need more attention. And so now we're partnering them up with a seasoned veteran driver. We've trained a seasoned driver to what are the standards we want you to deliver when you're with the buddy system. And this is the grading criteria. And so we just launched that. I should have introduced Bill Shaw, by the way. Bill's our new chief operating officer. I think a couple weeks ago we did the training.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. So pretty early on, but really something pretty innovative. We think it's a different approach. We don't know of any other transit system in Pennsylvania that's doing this. We are just kind of leading the way on that. Statewide, through our state association, we're creating a maintenance apprentice program. We've signed a contract with Penn College in Williamsport. And so it'll be different for me. I have twitches over from time to time. We will pay a student a wage to go sit for 6 weeks in Williamsport while they learn trade to come back to us and work. It makes sense. It's a good thing to do. It's just an odd concept, and I don't like spending. I'm pretty thrifty with our money, and so. But I think it's a program that makes sense because we're not finding mechanics, and so can we grow our own? Can we get someone out of a VOTEC program, bring them in, start them off? Right here's a stipend wage to go sit in the classroom. We'll cover your expenses while you're there. We have to do something because the buses don't fix themselves, and we're really struggling maintaining them. So we'll see. We haven't launched it yet. It's supposed to start in May, so we'll see what happens with that.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
The mechanics and the bus routes.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
So some technology we've launched since the last time we were here, the Find My Ride Apply. So every person, residents can apply for the shared ride program online now. They don't have to print out an application. They fill out a document online. It goes directly into our software system. What used to take us 10 days to process an application, sometimes it's the same day now. So if you apply, you can almost get approval to apply tomorrow. So that's a good thing. We're launching it's called Track It app. So drivers, especially in shared ride, have a tablet on board already, a Samsung tablet. That's their MDT to log trips, board, light, that kind of stuff. They can take that tablet out and open up an app, which is the Track It app. So they have an instant report, have an accident on the scene. They can take the tablet, take pictures, fill out voice to text. We have some folks who aren't literate. And so that gives them the ability to still submit reports to us timely. So we're really excited about that technology. We'll see where that takes us. But I think it'll help us be more compliant in our risk management program. So we're excited about that. We really have, and sometime I should invite you to the York office to see our call center. There are 26 people down there answering, 40,000 calls a year. Like it's a call center, true call center with performance metrics and recording ability. We go back and listen to calls and coach based on that. And so we've really put in some good software there, and that's really, I think, raising the bar there. So we're pretty excited about that. A radio replacement, mirrorless buses. So we have 2 buses that have computer screens, vertical, with cameras mounted on the outside, with our hope that we're going to start lobbying for the actual mirrors to be removed from the buses. There are states, New York and Maryland, have this law already. If you have a camera with a screen, you don't need a mirror. And so they're at night, the vision on these screens are amazing. During the rainstorm, how you look in that, you can't see anything, it's glare, crystal clear. You can see everything. It is the coolest thing ever. And so I hope to invite the House Transportation Committee to our building in Harrisburg and have them ride the bus and look at this and see if we can get that changed. Yeah. We would like to deploy that, system wide. So I'm kind of excited about that. And electronic pre and post trip, again, using the same tablet that we use for the Track It software, they're now going to do electronic pre and post trips. And so what's good about that is that there's a defect right now. It could be 12 hours before maintenance gets it. When they hit submit, and that automatically goes to the maintenance software, creates a work order for the mechanic to know I have to go look at bus 12 because it has an issue. So really trying to figure out how to automate our practices to the best of our ability, because you can't hire your way out of this. We got to figure out how to use technology to kind of somewhat circumvent staff where we can. So I think that's it. That's a lot, right? But that's sort of the highlights of the things that are going on since the last time I was here.
What's we've had this question in the past, and it's been a long time since I rode the bus regularly. So bikes, How do you handle bicycles?
So every fixed route bus has a bike rack. And we, on our dashboard, if you ever feel like surfing the internet, go to rabbittransit.org and go to About Us. And under About Us are all the board meetings, and all of our minutes are there, including our financial reports. And our financial reports include dashboards, and it keeps the bike statistics. But we are thousands, 5,000, 4,000 bike boardings a month, and growing, exponentially growing. Like it's every year is like 14% more than the last year. Like it is a steady growth in it. So people are finding that mixing transit with their bicycle allows them to go further. We call it pedal, hop, pedal. So pedal, hop on the bus, and so it is a big part of our program. And they ride for free. There's no additional cost. You have to put them on yourself, take them off yourself, but it's a big part of our program.
That's good to know. I think a bunch of the developments going in are aiming at that, demographic, people who are bicycling more. Some of the communities are designed around that, so I can see.
Well, we see like industrial parks, right? We serve the entranceway because that was the first building, and then they build another one behind it, and another, right? We don't have the resources to go into all. People get off, take their bike, and they ride the 1.5 miles or 2 miles back into their employer. It's working for them, and so it's a great way to do that. It's one of the biggest lost and found items too, because people will put their bike on and get off and go home and leave. And so we have to try to track down the owners all the time. Dozens a week. It's not an exaggeration. At one point we had we were like 80 bikes or something. Like somebody come get your bicycle. Like you think it'd be missing. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's a great program.
You mentioned about
I did want to introduce Diane Bozak. She's our new board member for Cumberland County. So Diane and I sit on the board with Rick, but that's going to come here today here presentation.
Excellent.
Since you mentioned the board, then you mentioned the board, so I just wanted to ask about that. So the SRTA is a very different arrangement than what we were used to with CAT, and that was a bit of a transition, I'm sure, with everything. So it certainly is an improvement from a governance standpoint for our county. Is everything working there? Is everybody's happy with the general arrangement?
I think so. I probably more than the board members themselves. I was a bit nervous when we're bringing two different entities together and we're merging them together in this new blended family, and I had no idea. I think we do a board retreat every year that's pretty in depth, and it's a lot of education and strategic planning. And I think after that first initial one, I could really see it's collective, right? Because the challenge I was concerned about is, well, these two represent you. They don't. They represent 11 counties. Because there are 5 counties in the north that we have agreements with. They have no board representation. They have to make decisions for Sunbury. Like, we make a decision about the region, our transit footprint, and I was worried about what that would look. I as the director, I have zero concerns. I think it's working great. I mean, they could speak for themselves, but I'm really impressed on how professional our board is. I serve on boards too, and I look around sometimes the boards I serve, I'm like, oh, we don't have that. We really have good people. Thank you for appointing good people.
Yes.
That helps.
And I would say, Richard just bought smoke for the commissioners here today. The board is working really well together. I think I found that I think everybody kind of came into the SRTA not quite sure what to expect, but as we started to work on the issues, and we have strong leadership too from the board chair, the board vice chair, to help guide the group along. But especially at the York office, we have the mission for rapid transit up on the wall, and we kind of all face that direction. And multiple times people refer to that's our mission. We're not worried about political boundaries, we're not worried about other stuff. We're worried about serving our customers, and that comes through clear every meeting that we have. I find it fascinating. There's so many smart people on that board. Every time I leave, I learn something. And like Rich, I can't say that for every board I'm on, but that one I look forward to going to. We go in person, even though it takes a little while to get there sometimes. I think it's time well spent. And I can see the benefit to our community too, and how we serve our customers.
Well, that was not an easy transition either. So we appreciate what you brought to the process, and you just getting you in place. I feel like You should go to Jim Hertzler's house and give him a personal briefing on this. So, it's very involved.
I'm surprised you even called me.
Told everybody else in there.
You used to call me immediately.
And these are
I'd be
really,
glad to know that the spoke and wheel. The spoke and wheel, right, is going away.
Right.
Right, I'll be so glad to know that.
Right,
Yes.
because it should, like, there, it needs to function, there needs to be some sort of spoke, right, there has to be something,
right.
right? But it's, if 60 of my buses a day, like, I can't help to think that's inefficient.
Yeah.
I asked them to pull that number for this meeting, I didn't know that number for this meeting, I knew it was a lot, but like, pull that number for me, I'm curious how many times it costs.
I mean, the city's very important, but it's no longer a hub. That's just a
A stop.
demographic change, so geographic change, so.
No, people who live in Cumberland County are not going to buy their groceries there, and they're not going to the doctors there, and they're not, right, they're not. They live here, they work here, they play here, they work. We have to make sure we serve the local communities.
So how hard is it, since you mentioned that, because one of the arguments we always heard before was the number of people who are in the city who have to come to Camp Hill or Lemoyne for grocery shopping because the city is, you know.
Grocery store desert.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt. And the
Well, it
city
had improved
also.
and then it got bad again, but. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's enough. There's grocery stores surrounding all the urban areas where there aren't grocery stores in all of our areas. But that is a real issue. Probably the biggest export is really workers. We take a lot of folks from Harrisburg City.
On your
to
regular
work,
routes.
going to the, oh, yeah, lots. That's probably the biggest, like, Cumberland County benefits from that workforce.
Didn't there used to be special runs?
Oh, yeah, Chewy paid for one, but then they relocated to Northern York County and automated their plant. They have like a third of the number of employees they had before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Here's the future.
Yeah, that's, well,
And we got plenty.
right, but it'll be, and that's sort of almost like the teleworking challenge, right? So you have a bus route, our express services, they were full. Now they're half full, but the half full people still need it, right? There are folks with disabilities that we talk about at Enola all the time. That route is not heavily used. We have residents who bought houses on the bus line so they can get to work. And so every time we talk about changing it, they show up. Like, I bought my house here. I'm disabled. They come in a wheelchair. I bought my house on the bus line. Now you're taking my bus line. Like,
I mean, that's true in every urban area. So it's, reliability, reliability. So the fact that you've been able to stabilize, I will say that, what you said earlier is very refreshing. We've gone from years and years and years of status quo or decline and then retrenchment. And now to sit here and have you outline true improvements, futures, and your enthusiasm for this is a welcome change too. So for us.
And one of the things, there's a couple of things that constituents always talk to me about, and one is that, it's cost so much to live in Cumberland County, and one of the reasons is because of the lack of public transportation. And this, I think, is a part of decreasing those costs. And I know that I've mentioned this before, but like in Mechanicsburg, we have a very large Somali population. They were refugees, they're United States citizens now. But they don't always drive. And so they've, called me and said, I have to take the bus to the bus stop. And by the way, I have 6 kids with me. And now I have to go to Hershey Medical Center, and that's a 6-hour trip. And so working on these things is so fantastic.
it's important.
Yes. I mean, that's a day of work for someone.
Right. It's real people with real issues.
Yes.
Stuff.
Yes. Thank you.
Well,
Appreciate it
yeah,
very
well,
much.
yeah, thank you for having me. My pleasure.
What's going to be your encore next year?
I don't know, like, that's the problem, right? You raise the bar so high, then I gotta work on my bar. That's right, finish the building. Yeah, we'll come, the ribbon cutting. Let ribbon cutting be the next one.
So do we have any other business to come before the finance committee or the finance meeting today? No other business? Seeing none, hearing none, not online? Looking for a motion to adjourn?
So.
And we are adjourned.